All right. Welcome everybody here. All right, thank you. So I'm doing episode 2 of the Bravo Pee Wee Wheel, where we spin this beautiful contraction, and whatever 3 items it lands on, I must use those. So please don't ask for a recipe because this is on the spot. This is going to happen right here, right now. So if you guys want to help me cheer, we're going to go spin that Bravo Pee Wee Wheel. Oregano. Okay, so I have some dried oregano here. All right, so ingredient number 1, ingredient number 2, spin that Bravo Pee Wee Wheel. All right, I'm trying to make it fun here. What we got?
Curry. Uh-oh.
All the spices are gonna show up. Okay, oregano, curry. One last time, spin that Bravo Pee Wee Wheel.
Apples. Jalapeno.
Spinach. Okay, spinach. All right, spinach, oregano, and curry.
Wow. Different.
Last week ended up with orange, tomatillos, and mushrooms.
Oh, that sounds good to me.
It came out good. I think a couple of you were here, so.
Yes, it was very good.
Okay. Luckily, I can edit my thinking time. Okay. So I mentioned this last week, so probably going to mention it every time. You know, the idea here is for you guys, open up the fridge, see what's there, and come up with something, rather than, you know, look at a book and like, well, I don't have this, so I better go to the store now. It's time, you know. Or you go, oh God, I don't have this and this. Let me just, you know, call it in and order something. So the idea is for, you know, to be able to use what you have. And a lot of times what happens is that can be a little sort of frightening. You know, you're like, I have no idea what the hell to make with this, right?
Yes.
And you know, you're sort of paralyzed by the thought of that. But the idea, again, is to break it down into simple blocks. Okay. What I have here is not a hot spicy, but it's a lot of fragrance, a lot of spice within this right here. And here I have this very earthy green, you know, leafy sort of thing, spinach. And the one thing that's throwing me off is because I already have the curry and it's adding the oregano to it. Because there's already so much spice in here. So the problem here is that it's almost like more of the same type of deal. But a deal is a deal. So because I have this sort of this spicy kind of thing, I'm thinking apples. How do we bring this all together? I'm thinking some potatoes maybe. Okay, so here's how we're gonna do this. I'm thinking this might end up being my sauce. This will be the seasoning for the potato, spinach, something else.
Cabbage.
I'm not choosing cabbage because this spinach is salty. It's got that sort of earthy, salty kind of thing, which is almost the same as the cabbage, although this has that cruciferous kind of thing. So again, the idea here is to bring flavors, colors, and textures that complement each other, not adding certain more of the same. So as you can see here, by the perfect example between the curry and the apple, 2 totally different things that actually complement each other very well.
Carrots.
Yeah, I'm thinking a little color there on the carrot. You know what? Actually, that actually sounds good. So carrots. I have some rainbow carrots that I'm going to use. Of course, always onions and garlic, just because they provide so much depth of flavor. Okay. And I might end up using some cashews because I'm going to do a couple different things here. So, okay, here we go. spinach, curry, and oregano. All right, so I'm gonna turn this guy on, my stove on, and I'm gonna set this off to the side. I'm gonna start with the onions and garlic. Sliced garlic here. Okay. And so, let me think. I better dice this now.
Is that a gold, Yukon gold?
This is a Yukon Gold potato, yeah. This is probably my favorite potato because it's got the most potato-y flavor of all.
Kind of buttery too.
Yeah, right.
They also have a great texture.
Yeah, they're just creamy, buttery, very potato-y. I really like them. Okay, so onions, garlic. Get that going. So I'm doing a dry saute here with the onions and garlic.
No water in there or anything?
No, dry saute. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to caramelize the natural sugars and the onion and the garlic. And if I started out with any water or vegetable broth in there, that would hinder that effect.
Is that a medium heat?
What's the
Do
question?
you need it medium?
Medium heat. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my oregano here. Just to give it a little bit of time to toast a bit, I'm gonna slip some jalapenos in there real quick, just because. Okay. I'm gonna choke myself out here with the hot jalapenos. And so that's what I have going on, this nice browning effect. Okay, my potatoes go in. I did not put the potatoes in the beginning because there's enough starch in there where they would start sticking at the bottom of the pot. Okay, and then carrots we'll use in a bit. I brought some vegetable broth. Now all I'm trying to do is make sure this has enough time to cook. I'm gonna do a makeshift lid like I did last time. Plate, just put it on top. All right.
How much broth do you put in? It's for the purpose of sauteing, so it's not.
The question is how much broth was added on here because the purpose of it is not to saute. The purpose of it is just to have enough in there to cook the potatoes all the way
Cover
through.
the potato.
So if one of my potato dice was sort of there in the pan, the broth came out to about 2/3 of them. Okay, and so I'm gonna rotate them around a little bit. Sorry, that's the jalapeno making you do that. I want to get my carrots ready for when I do decide to use them. It's got this nice multicolored sorry.
Can we open the door?
We can open windows if you'd like.
Oh, dear.
Okay. All right. So now the carrots, they're going to provide this beautiful color, but they also are hard. Okay, so they're going to take some time to cook. So I'm just going to add them on top just to sort of steam them, essentially. That's all I'm trying to do.
Oh,
This half to
Quarter. Just point. Okay. In the meantime, I am going to take my apple and okay, so I have those ready. What I'm going to do is I'm going to toast a little bit of the curry here in just a moment. And again, I'm going to rely on that combination of the spiciness of the curry, all those flavors, all those aromas, and putting it together with something sweet, such as the apples. Sometimes, this is not a new idea, by the way, apples and curry has been put together for hundreds of years, okay? So when you're into this new thing of a plant-based diet, plant-based kind of thing, you don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to sort of go back to, you know, ground zero. You just take the ideas that have been used for many years and just sort of adjust them a little bit, okay? You know, a lot of people sometimes come in here and they go, you know, if I'm gonna go plant-based, I suddenly don't know anything anymore, so I gotta start all over again. And that's not the case. You just simply, you know, adjust, you know, and use the same ideas again, so. Almost. I'm going to check again. Potatoes. Just a little bit longer. Okay.
What level heat is it on?
Medium. I've kept it at medium the whole time.
so Chef Bravo, when you go home, if you're one of us and you go home, what would be the very, very first thing that you would do to start eating this way? Aside from eating action items, we start making a list, a meal plan. Is there a website that we could go to? So what would you do if you came here as a patient?
As a patient,
That
I would try to take as much food to go here. So the question is, you know, if I was a patient here at True North, how would I maintain diet at home? The very first thing is, for me, it would be to get mentally organized, okay? So going home would be like, okay, how do I set up my kitchen for success? Is there any spot in the kitchen that makes me not want to cook? Makes me think, that's too much work, kind of a thing. So things like, if you stuff your oven with all the pots and pans and everything, and knowing that if you have to turn the oven on, it's such a production that you'd rather not do it, then you got to change that somehow. Okay? Also, I always tell people that your dishwasher and your stove determines where everything goes. Okay? So if my dishwasher is right here, this is probably ready. I'm gonna go ahead and switch pots. I'll set this aside here for a moment. So if your dishwasher is right here, you want to be able to open that up once, you know, a load is washed, and be able to put everything in its place, taking no more than one step this way or no more than one step this way. Okay? So at home, my dishwasher is right here. My glass and plates are all right here, so I don't have to take more than a half a step. And my silverware drawer is right here. Okay, so that's where the silverware goes, plates, glasses go. Okay? If I have pots in there, I take them out and I put them next to the stove. Okay, so one of my covers is where all my pots and pans are. So again, even though I'm taking 2 steps this way, when I need my pot, I only take half a step to grab it and put it on the stove. Okay, so it's kind of like this makeshift sort of thing. Everything is all within right here. My cutting board is right next to the pot, next to the blender. So I would start there, just getting mentally ready. And I'm probably gonna smoke you guys out a little bit again. Okay. Curry, apples. Okay. And the idea here is to toast the curry just a little bit in order to wake it up, you know, sort of start to say, hey, you know, I need you here, come out and play with it, okay? If I were to just make this and sort of throw it in at the blender, I have about 50% of flavor here, okay? But if I toast it, I take that to about 80%.
Is that a dry pot?
Dry pot, yeah.
Is that tend, toasting spices and stuff, does that tend to always up it, so?
Always, yeah, always. You should not use any spices that you're not gonna toast.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I added some cashews in there because I wanted to make this sort of creamy as well. Okay, so now,
My curry smells amazing.
thank you. So just a little bit, simple. Curry, apples, cashews, a little bit of broth. Nothing fancy, okay? Simple. Not have to add a whole bunch of ingredients because these few ingredients are gonna combine with the few ingredients on the other pot, come together, and suddenly we have all these colors, flavors, textures, if that makes sense. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and hurry this up. I'm gonna bring it up to a simmer just as quickly as possible, just to move things along. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the show.
Yes.
All right, cool. I have still yet to use the spinach. One of the things about spinach is that if you start cooking it too soon, it starts to go from that bright green to that army green color. So I'm going to add it sort of at the last minute kind of a thing, okay? That's why I haven't used it quite yet. So now, I'm gonna check what I'm doing here. Potatoes beautifully cooked, carrots, okay, beautiful. Okay, so now I can go ahead and put this back over here for just a second. So I am going to, you know how spinach also sort of, as you're eating it, sort of gets stuck to the sides of your gums and your teeth? I like to cut it a little bit so that we'll imagine that this is sort of cooked. So as your whole leaf of spinach, as you chew it here and it sort of gets stuck on this side, you know, kind of a thing. And you're like trying to catch it, right? So if it's in small pieces, I try to keep it all inside of the teeth instead of outside. Do I always preheat my pans before I start cooking? No. If I want to toast, sort of roast, caramelize, I do preheat them. There are things where you don't want any color. So if I was going to make, for example, a cauliflower puree, I wouldn't want any color at all. At that point, what I would do would be a wet saute, where I would start with a little bit of broth in the pan, cold, add the ingredients, and prevent any color from developing, so that when I puree my cauliflower, it's got as much of that, you know, white ivory color as possible. Okay. So, sauce and
So that's just broth, curry, and apple.
broth, curry, and apples, yes. And cashews, a little bit of cashews, just because I wanted it creamy.
Are the cashews raw?
And they were. And then I cooked them for, you know, about a minute and a half. So the question was, were the cashews raw? They were when they went in the pot. I cooked them for a couple minutes. Now they're no longer raw. Anytime you use cashews to make a creamy kind of sauce, I always like to let the blender go quite a bit, because nothing worse than thinking you're going to get this nice creamy sauce and then there's a little bit of graininess because the cashews did not get blended all the way. Sir, could I have a couple spoons, please? Okay, so now you saw me switch pots so that this was going to be nice and hot again. I'm adding the spinach. I turned the pot off and I cover it again. So I'm going to do basically a quick steam on those on the spinach. If you cook it too long, not only does the color start to turn on your spinach, but it also starts to give off too much water. All the spinach has quite a bit of water. So if suddenly I cook the potatoes and carrots and all the spices just right, and then I add my spinach, I leave it in there too long, now it's kind of soggy because all that water came out of the spinach. Okay? So it's almost like it's a wilted kind of a thing.
Vitamix mixer, blender,
Why do I use it?
white Vitamix. Would a blender, any blender work?
No. Once you go Vitamix, you don't go back.
Okay.
True. The Vitamix is on.
Once you go black.
So get a Vitamix.
If you are going to spend money on a Vitamix, get yourself a 5200 model precisely. Okay, this one's, it's like cheapy blenders, high-end blenders like a Blendtec and Ninja. Then there's Vitamix. Then there's a 5200 model. Okay, that's the way the scale works. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and layer my carrots here and give myself a starting line. Now I can mix everything else up. So it's all, this has turned out to be like a hash kind of a thing. So I'm going to give it a quick taste. Hopefully those jalapenos were not like super spicy. In Mexico, they're very consistent. Here in the US, sometimes they're like flavorless, sometimes they're really spicy.
So, is it true that if you use the seeds, that makes it spicier?
It is
And
true.
what about the ribs?
And what about
The ribs,
they're also spicy. The veins, yeah.
the veins, okay.
Sadly, there's not much there. One of the things you can do. No.
Like serrano and
Actually, yeah.
habanero.
Jalapenos are the mildest. One of the things you can do is, which I didn't do because I wasn't, trying to put it together. You can cut a slice off and maybe, a quarter of that slice and taste it, and you can sort of see where your heat is at.
How much heat there is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a good idea, thank you.
Okay. So this is what I'm trying to accomplish here now. Number one is you should always plate your food in white plates, white china, not bone white, like off-white, just a nice white china. If you have some of those 4th of July plates, some of those turkey things, whatever, throw them away. Okay?
And why is that?
Because the colors of the food will not pop against something that's too busy already. Okay, if you got color in the plate, you can't appreciate the color of the food. If you have a white, plate, then the colors of the food pop up. It's kind of like our, dry erase boards. You don't appreciate how white they are, okay? But if you start writing the letters here in green, then you're like, oh, I can really see the green really nice. If this board was green and then I try to write green on it, that makes sense? Okay. All right. And now, actually, I'm just gonna pour. Spinach, curry, and dried oregano. A little bit of spiciness with the potato and spinach hash, some nice sweetness and colorful carrots, and then that nice curry apple sauce around. So that is the show for today, folks. And one thing I did not do, but I'm sure this is great, I did not taste the sauce. All right, that works. For sure. Okay, so that is episode 2 of the Bravo PB Wheel. I hope you guys enjoy it. Please hit the subscribe button, Bravo Plant-Based Channel, and BravoPB.com. Thank you. All right. So one of the cool things about doing these sort of things where you don't know what you're gonna make because it depends on what's in the fridge is that a lot of times you end up getting ideas for later. So for the sauce that I made for this particular dish, I decided to do it again on a larger scale, and I just made it a little bit thinner. And so what I have here is soup. I have a apple curry soup. I took some Granny Smith apples here and I peeled it, diced it up, and so I have some diced apple. These are gonna go in the oven, 350 degrees. Okay, so this is what the apples look like after they come out of the oven. So nice and roasted. And so now at this point, all we gotta do is serve our soup, hot or cold. You know, I'm doing this as a hot one, but apples and curry are nice cold as well. A little bit of those apples over the top. And then even a touch of chiffonade of sage. And boom, there we go. We have a nice curry and apple soup. If for some reason your soup ends up being too spicy, too strong for you, you can always add a little bit of applesauce to it, which I've done before to just sort of mellow out a spicy soup. So you get a little bit more sweetness in there. So that's another trick for you. So I hope you enjoy this.